When we first started, my dad and my uncle had sold a medical product business that they'd run for a lot of years, and my dad wasn't ready to fully retire. We've both been gearheads forever, and it was kind of during the sandcar craze. 2004, 5, everybody had a lot of equity in their houses, everybody was buying a lot of sandcars. Rhinos had just come out, and we were one of the first people to build long travel kits and turn them into little race cars and race them over here at Lake Elsinore motocross track and that sort of thing. When the economy went down, the Rhino stuff got a lot more popular than the sandcar stuff, so we were building tons and tons of Rhinos, and we were racing our own. At one point, we totaled it up, and not including our labor, we'd done everything ourselves and kind of built this thing. I was like, man, we got $50,000 into this car that won't do 55 miles an hour hardly. There's got to be a better way. And so that's when we built our first truck. And we were winning like 9 out of 10 races a year between Score and Best in the Desert. And so we really kind of got that class pretty dialed. Then came the 6100 class. And so we took what we had learned on the 7200s and kind of adapted and built our first 6100. Jason Ruane went out with the first one and won the championship the first year. Went 9th overall at the Mint in a spec truck. So had a lot of success with the 6100s. Larry Connor asked me one day, he said, why don't you build trophy trucks? Seems like there's probably a lot better margins than that. And I told him we had always decided that we weren't going to build the next level class until we felt like we had this level class perfected. And he said, well, you're winning all these races, don't you have it perfected? And I said, well, if I could find somebody that would have the faith in us to give us the money that it took to build a competitive vehicle, then we build one. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the money to build it, and when it's done, we'll sell it. And if there's a profit, we'll split the profit, and if there's a loss, we'll split the loss. So we did that, and we sold the truck, and the Space Monkey guys ended up buying it. Little did I know, the reason he really wanted to do that is in 2 years, he was planning that he wanted to move up to trophy truck, and he didn't want us to have the first one. He wanted some development time in there. So then we built 2 for him. And then after we started building those, we really were focusing on how do we make ourselves stand out in a group of people that all build trophy trucks that haven't changed a lot in the last 10 to 15 years. It all came down to, we got to figure out how to make all-wheel drive work.
Well, everybody's been trying to do four-wheel drive for ages. Rod Hall was back in the day, and that's when they had class 4. Or, you know what I mean? So they had a 4-wheel drive, then they had class 8, which was 2-wheel drive, frame rails and stuff like that. And then they had class 1. Then all of a sudden trophy trucks came out and that evolved. And so then it was like a straight axle rear end, and trophy truck was kind of open. You could do whatever you want. But everybody's always known, if we can get 4 wheels digging, we're gonna win. So what do they do in rally? They used to be 2-wheel drive, and they had the Renaults with the wide rear tires because they're trying to get more traction. They had more horsepower than they could get to the ground. Then all of a sudden the cars evolved, all-wheel drive, Subaru, Renault, Peugeot, all these different companies, Toyota, Nissan, all of them came out with all-wheel drive cars, and that has changed rally racing. Now we've evolved into desert trucks. A lot of people have tried it. Nissan, some of the different people, Chevrolet tried it with the McPhersons, but still, there was a lot of Achilles heels. We're breaking T-cases, we're breaking transmissions, there's too much load, there's too much traction, we're putting that energy through the chassis and everything, and so we're starting to break parts.
We've never been able to get 4-wheel drive to live with the same amount of suspension that the 2-wheel drive trucks have.
3-4 years ago, Neil came to me with this idea. We just sold a 6100 truck, and he goes, I want to build an all-wheel drive truck, and I go, you're nuts. It's way too big of a task. Nobody's been able to do it successfully, consistently. He had a lot of cool ideas that I really liked. Most all-wheel drive trucks have limited front suspension. His wasn't going to have it. It was going to have as much as a 2-wheel drive. And his passion to build whatever part he needed to make it work, if he couldn't buy it from somebody else, he was willing to design it and build it himself.
Forever, trophy trucks have used a transmission that's been initially designed for something else. The Turbo 400, which is kind of the staple and what 90% of trophy trucks use, was a transmission that was designed in the 60s for street cars and street trucks. Now the racing world has taken that and developed it and designed it and beefed it up and done things to performance enhance it, but it still is kind of filled that box. I feel like there's not a lot of room left to make that more than what it is without a total design change. So we decided that we were gonna, went blank sheet of paper. What does a transmission need to be in a trophy truck? We decided it needed to be 1, bulletproof strong. Let's not make it to where it's the edge and we're almost breaking it at the end of every race. Let's make it so that you could run it for 2 seasons, arguably. And also, we wanted to make it to where there was no ignition cut. We could put it in any gear that we wanted at any time. And we wanted more than 3 speeds. We wanted 5 speeds. And we wanted each gear adjustable different ratios easily so you could change it. And so what we came up with was a spur gear transmission like a gearbox, but each gear is applied with a hydraulic clutch pack like an automatic. So it's full power shifts, big and strong.
4-wheel drive is such a huge advantage in off-road racing. You know, the 0 to 60 acceleration of this truck is just totally bonkers. It's a total game changer. I mean, this truck kills everything corner to corner.
So for instance, coming through a corner in a 2-wheel drive, it's bop, 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 rolling it on. With the all-wheel drive, it's set, bop, bop, it's just right to it. And you're giving it all you got.
Neil Mason and his family didn't just build a new truck, they built a new platform. This is the engine, the transmission, the suspension, the electronics, everything working together.
The biggest thing you fight in the desert is traction. You're in soft stuff all the time. And so tire companies get better, bigger, better, they grip more. We got to the point where we couldn't put more power to them because we were just burning the tires off of them. You get to the point where what's limiting you in the corner is how much the rear is going to slide. So what better way to be faster than to put more traction to the ground?
Neil's the perfect guy. Why? Because he's a genius. This wasn't his first truck. He built some trucks that weren't so cherry. And him and his brother Robert and their father had come together as Mason Motorsports to design this unbelievable dream truck. And that's the beauty of it is that he uses me to the best of my ability. He doesn't tell me what to say, doesn't tell me what to do, doesn't tell me how to drive it. And then when we're in the truck, we're constantly talking. So every race that we got to race together, we're like, feel that, I like that, or I feel that, I don't like that, feel this shift, I want it to be a little smoother here, feel how it bogs, we need a little closer range on when it comes to from second to third or third to fourth or whatever it might be, or feel that delay, or feel this kick, or feel how it's getting light with the fuel cell. So when you have the engineer and the designer of the truck sitting next to you for 500 miles, how does it get any better than that?
When people say that the weakness is going to be that you can't keep it together, where you absolutely need to prove it is the Mint, where it's big, it's square, there's rocks, there's ditches, that's what needs to happen.
If this truck wins the Mint 400, it changes everything. I mean, the Mint is the roughest race in off-road racing.
Will the all-wheel drive have an advantage? Absolutely, because you don't have to keep that momentum up and keep it going. You know, with the two-wheel drive, you gotta come into the corners hard, you gotta bank through the corners and really get a good exit. Now you can have some different line selection with the all-wheel drive, avoid some of the bumps, but still get that pace up and save the driver, save the tires, and also save the vehicle.
We're super excited about the Mason all-wheel drive truck. We're ready to take the next step. Consistently a top 3 runner all the time. We're pretty close all the time, but we just gotta step it up just slightly. Some learning curves with it, but other than that, that thing is a missile. I'm looking forward to 2020 and see what happens.
Pay attention, this is history about to be made. We're on that pivotal moment in which 4-wheel drive could very well become the new weapon of choice in off-road racing.